Funny story, do you remember last month and the month before that I said that I really needed to tighten my belt so that I could save some money and not buy as many books? Yeah, it didn't happen. Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and thank you for tuning in. So it's the end of the month and you know that can mean only one thing. Yes, it is time for my month of June comic haul. But near enough all the books that I anticipate coming in are already in, so I thought I'd do this now, so let's just get into it. So like last time I'm going to start off with toys, and I have to because I managed to get my hands on the NECA Ultimate Technoir Terminator, which as you know is the one that I really wanted. This is my favourite scene in movie history, so of course I needed to get this one. And I finally did, but now I'm scared to take it out of the box even though I really want to. Terminator in Terminator 1 is my favourite movie villain of all time, and it's only a close second to the second toy that I got, which was the NECA Ultimate T1000 from Terminator 2. But this is the motorcycle cop variation. I haven't managed to get my hands on the normal light without the motorcycle cop variant. Obviously I'd like to get my hands on that, but it's only because of comics and cocktails that I managed to get these two in the first place, so I'm really glad that they are entering the dog pound. Now moving on to trade paperbacks, the first one that I got was The Boys Volume 6 of the Omnibus format. You'll probably remember from last month that I brought Volume 5 and I said that I only needed 2 more to get them, so now I only need Volume 3, so just watch that go massively out of print because it always happens. I don't know too much about this, I haven't even watched the Amazon Prime show yet, but it's Garth Ennis, and if you took anything away from your room tour you'd know that Preacher is my favourite book of all time, so I'm really excited to finally get this finished and hopefully I'll be able to do a read through of it soon. Now the next couple of paperbacks all came from the same company, and they do this thing where they end up having a remainder mark. You might remember that I said it in one of my earlier videos, but all that means is there's a little felt tip at the bottom of the book which you'll never even see when you've got it on your shelf. But the first one that I got from them was The New Mutants by Abnett and Lanning. So I like this creative team from Nova, I really enjoyed their work, but realistically I haven't read anything of The New Mutants. In one of the comic groups I'm in on Facebook, they made a list of like what's the team within comics that you've just had nothing to do with, and it had stuff like Fantastic Four, JSA, Teen Titans. The one I had to vote for was New Mutants because I just know nothing about this team. But it's a creative team that I like and I'm always open to reading new things. I know absolutely nothing about this, but it was literally £4 just because it had that little bit of felt tip at the bottom. That was too good of a deal to pass up, and I'm actually interested to see what the New Mutants are actually about. Again from the same company, I got another complete collection which is Black Widow by Greg Rucka. Greg Rucka's a writer that I've really liked for years, and Black Widow's a character that I've also enjoyed seeing in stories. I really like the Mark Waid and Chris Samney run, so hopefully this will be as good, but again it was really cheap just because it had a black dot on the bottom. So with the upcoming movie coming out, I want to do a video that's like how to get into Black Widow, so I kind of need to get some reading material before I can even do that. Again, same company, I got years 3 and years 4 of the complete collection of Injustice Year 1. I love the Injustice game, it was something that I recently picked up, but the comics are something that I read digitally because I remember they were coming out digitally originally. I opted not to get the Omnibus because honestly I don't think the art's too great in this, but I really like this. I treat it as an Elseworld story and I just enjoy it for what it is. It is some of like the more inventive and more fun storytelling that I've read in recent years, so I'm glad that these two are in here and I'm going to have to pick up the other volumes now as well. Another weird one is I bought 100 Bullets, and this is the second volume because again it was really cheap, felt tip on the bottom. It's a series that I've always intended to get for a while, and originally when it came out in the 13 volumes I had like 4 of them, but then they came out with those deluxe edition hardcovers that were doing it in 5 and I intended to get them and I didn't, and then finally I saw that these came out in the paperbacks. I'm not a massive fan of Eduardo Risso's art, so I'm quite happy to have this in just a paperback. I know there's an omnibus coming out later this year and then they'll probably end up doing a compendium. If I can get all the volumes in this format, that will be something that I'm happy with. But from what I've read of 100 Bullets, I really like it. It's quite like a crime noir-y story, and when I was originally reading it I believe I was like 17, 18, so I think it might have been before I'd really got to the age where I can enjoy this. So hopefully when I've got all the volumes this will be something that I read and I'll enjoy. Next up, and a story that I've meant to get ever since I've played Arkham Knight, is Batman Under the Red Hood. This is the complete all-in-one collection, and this seems like a story that when it was coming out and for a few years after, everybody was talking about this. I remember it always being on one of those Batman stories that you need to read. Spoilers for anybody who doesn't know, this is the return of Jason Todd as he comes back as the Red Hood. So it's one of them that I already know the ending, but I'm still interested to read, and I picked this up for a very good price. Yeah, felt tip on the bottom, not on the top, so I can't really complain. It's one of them Batman stories everybody talks about. From having a flick through, it looks like it's got quite fun art. I just like the Red Hood as a character though, like his design's quite fun even though he's quite simple. Oh, I've just flicked through, there's like, I might end up getting rid of this actually. There's literally a hole in the book. Can anybody see that? Look at that right there. I haven't really properly flicked through this. What on earth has happened with this? Oh shit, I'm going to have to bin it. Ugh. Well, There's one for the bin. Next up, and I'm going to flick through it real quick whilst we're talking about it, but that is the Invisibles. I believe this is book 3. Yeah, it's got the felt tip at the bottom. I didn't buy the Invisibles Omnibus, and I've only really read 3 issues of this, but everybody keeps saying it's basically something that The Matrix ripped off. The Matrix is one of my top 10 all-time favourite films, so I really wanted to pick this up. Grant Morrison's a writer that's quite hit and miss with me. Some of his stories I absolutely love, others just completely go over my head, but the Invisibles seems to be one of his more high concept ideas, so this will be something that I'm going to get the rest of the volumes. I am reading it digitally, like I said, at the same time. Now, the last paperback that I brought from that group, and it does actually help me fill a gap in my collection, is DMZ Book 2. I've talked about DMZ before. Basically, New York gets turned into a DMZ, which stands for Demilitarized Zone, and it's all about like the factions that rise up within there. You follow the story of a photographer slash journalist as he tries to investigate the stories that are happening within the DMZ. But I'm glad that I got this book. I really want to finish out the rest of this collection, although you can pick this up in a recent compendium, but I'm not sure if they're going to do a volume 2 just yet. Now, something that I picked up because I thought it was going to be a deluxe hardcover, I got Superman Unchained. How weird is it that nobody talks about this book? It's written by Scott Snyder, it's got art by Jim Lee, but it just seems to have no buzz about it. I remember when this was announced, and I remember reading comment section about saying, oh, this is just like the recipe for success, but weirdly, I didn't even know that this book got finished. I thought it just got delayed and then just never got finished. So I'm glad that I've got it, even if it is just a standard paperback. I got it for a really good price, I got it for a couple of quid, but I'm looking forward to seeing what this is about and why there's absolutely no buzz either. And the final trade paperbacks of this month, you might have seen them in one of my earlier videos, but I got the Hawkman, the sort of complete collections, book 1 and book 2. But I wanted the Omnibus for a while, but unfortunately that's massively out of print, and the binding's got multiple issues with it as well. I've read about half of this digitally already. I like most of Jeff Johns' work, and I liked what I read about this. I wouldn't put it higher than Green Lantern or anything like that, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't an enjoyable read. I like the sort of mythology that went into this character, and I didn't really know a lot about Hawkman before this anyway. So I'm glad that I've got these and that I don't need to chase the Omnibus, but again, I'm just gonna say, why can't DC sort out the spines? Like, these were 2 volumes, and the spines still don't line up. Now, I did get a few mangas this month, and the first one, and I've already done a review of it, is Project X Challenger's Cup Noodle. My amazing girlfriend got me this. This is massively out of print, and I don't even know why. It's one of those stories that is just so heartwarming and fun. I did a full review of it, so I'm not going to say too much more about it here. But don't worry, I know what you're worrying. You're worrying that my girlfriend's going to try and eventually get me into being a manga guy. Don't worry about that, it's not going to happen. In other news, because I love nothing more than a bandwagon, I got the Berserk Deluxe Edition Volume 1. Again, don't worry, I'm not turning into a manga guy, it's just that this is such a beautiful edition, and everybody raves about Berserk so much that I had to get it. I do want to get the other volumes. I mentioned this in my whale watch, but my bad on that one. It does look as if this is a book that is now back in stock everywhere. But Volume 5 is coming out soon, and I didn't want to be left behind and there being too many volumes to buy that I don't buy any of them. So I decided to jump on this, and it might be good for me to broaden my horizons a little bit. Now, I did get like one standard size hardcover, and it was from that company that was doing those like books with the dot at the bottom for quite cheap. It was a book that I wanted for ages, but I'm really disappointed with this. It's Wonder Woman and Conan. It's written by Gail Simone, so it's Wonder Woman, a character I like. It's Conan the Barbarian, a character that I love. It's Gail Simone, a writer that I enjoy. But this book, for some reason, this is an ex-library copy. They listed this as like new, and I can understand the remainder mark, and that's fine, but look, there's like a little like stamping in and out date. Like, is this for me? Is this so I know when I've read this book or not? Admittedly, with the condition this is coming, I'm probably going to end up throwing this away, but I did get it this month, so it makes it into this video. Congratulations. Another one that I got from them in much better condition was Doctor Strange by Jason Aaron Volume 2. I said it before me, how to buy comics without spending too much money, but why do they keep doing this remainder mark thing? Does anybody who watches my videos know why there's that remainder mark? Like, for me, I'd be able to count, like, I've been able to count since I was about 3, so why do they have to do this? But still, this is still sealed, so hopefully there's going to be no issues like there was with the Batman Under the Red Hood book. But Doctor Strange is a character that I think doesn't get used to his full potential. I like that he's probably one of the more powerful characters in the Marvel Universe. Jason Aaron's a writer that I really enjoy, so now that I've got both volumes, I can just dive into this and hopefully it's good. As well, I got the first volume of Darth Vader by Charles Soule. For some reason I can't say his name, so I do apologise for that, but Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen was a story that I really enjoyed, and I've heard people saying that this version of it is even better than that. For me, of these books have probably been some of the best fan fiction that I've ever read, because that's effectively what it is. But the Darth Vader story, if you haven't already checked it out and you can find a way to buy it, I'd really recommend doing that. In essence, what I've read from that series is the best bit of Star Wars Rogue One that we all liked, where Darth Vader goes in at the end and just mows through everybody with his lightsaber. It's literally a comic series where that continues, and hopefully it's the same with Charles Soule. I'm probably going to read this quite quickly because of how much I enjoyed the Kieran Gillen run. Next up, and it was another gift from a girlfriend, and yes, she is real, and no, she's not someone that I've just made up so that I've got an excuse to buy more books. But she managed to search and find me the Swamp Thing by Scott Snyder Deluxe Edition. I'm so happy that she managed to get me this. I've wanted it for a while. Like, I like Scott Snyder, and I like that this had a crossover with Animal Man by Jeff Lemire, but I'm just so disappointed in DC's decision to now make a Swamp Thing New 52 Omnibus. They could have just done a second hardcover, and then I could have at least had 2 deluxe editions, but they're including this in that omnibus and effectively making this obsolete, and it just annoys me that they keep doing this. They did it with Super Sons, they've done it with New Teen Titans, and there's other books where they've done it before in the past as well. Like, to me, DC are the equivalent of Hasbro and how they like handle the Marvel Legends line, the Star Wars Black line, and the Power Rangers Lightning collection. I'm sick of being forced into double dip because I'm not waiting too long to buy a book. Like, I'm sorry for the mid-haul rant, but do I now not buy the JLA by Grant Morrison omnibus? 2 years from now, are they just going to release a JLA omnibus that's going to include the missing issues and continue from there? But it didn't tarnish the fact that my girlfriend worked really hard to find me this. I'm really grateful for it, and I want to review this in October as sort of like a horror themed thing. Another one that I picked up because it means I finally get to complete the series is The Wicked and the Divine Volume 4. This comes as 2 volumes, and seeing how thin this second volume is, I don't really know why they've done that. But this is a series that I've been collecting for a while now. I've been waiting till it's finished so that I can just get it all and read it in one go. So now I can finally do that, and I'm glad I've got this, and I just like the way that it's sort of like black sort of foil on a black cover, so you might not be able to see it too well, but it works really well in line with the other books. I'm just glad that I got this in case this ends up being the next Image book that just becomes really difficult to find. Another Image book that I brought on a whim is Paper Girls Book 2 by Brian K. Vaughan. It is the deluxe edition, so it's got a really nice foil cover. I don't actually have volume 1 yet, so this is going to be another series that I'm going to have to hunt down, but it's Brian K. Vaughan, and I've heard the synopsis of this, and it does sound like something I'd quite enjoy. I managed to find a really good deal on this where it was literally less than half price, so of course I had to buy it, and I don't mind having to get the other volumes now as well. And the last deluxe edition that I brought was Superman Secret Origins by Jeff Johns. So take another drink. But I loved this book when I first read it a few years ago, and I was waiting and hoping that they were going to do an absolute edition. No, my luck, now that I finally brought this, they're probably going to do it and Jeff Johns Superman Omnibus. But still, I'm really glad that I've got this. It's got that beautiful Gary Frank art, so to see that in an oversized format is something that I just had to pick up. By the way, just before we get into the omnibuses, I apologise if I'm really sweaty. It's like the hottest day of the year. I can't really turn my fan on or else it interferes with the camera, so just forgive me for that one whilst we get into the omnibuses. But from the company that did the remainder marks, I took a blind buy and I bought the ShangChi Volume 2 and Volume 4. I know this is a bit stupid because now I'm going to have to buy the other volumes, but ShangChi is one of those characters that they had to get the rights back, and they could only really release these for a limited amount of time because of the main bad guy, Fu Manchu. So for me, this might be a series that I really enjoy, so I wanted to get it to make sure that I don't miss out on it, rather than miss out on it and then they go massively out of print. I've seen that he's got a load of crossovers with Iron Fist, who's a street level character that I really like, so I don't feel too bad about blind buying these books. I do feel bad that I'm now going to have to get the other ones, but you know, you can't win everything in life. And for a fraction of the price of what it should have cost, I also got the Daredevil by Mark Waid Omnibus Volume 2. Yeah, it did have the remainder mark somewhere, yeah, it's just at the top, it's barely even noticeable, but I had the 5 deluxe edition hardcovers and I didn't really need the omnibus, so of course I bought the omnibus. But I'm really happy that I've got this. I've got the rest of the Daredevil line now in omnibus, so it only made sense to upgrade these so that they've all got that nice format together. And of course that meant that I had to buy Volume 1. I've noticed that this is steadily going out of print, but that's something that I'll talk about a bit more in Whale Watch. But this is a much lighter take on Daredevil, and I actually enjoyed it even though Bendis is probably my favourite run. It makes sense that I round out my collection, and I got this for a really great deal from somebody on Facebook, so now I've managed to get both of these in omnibus for probably less than the price of one of them to begin with. Can't really say no to that. And as you've probably noticed from this video, I can't really say no to any kind of deal or offer. Next up, I brought the Batman Black and White Omnibus. Now, this is something that's pretty much an art book to me, so I'm glad that I picked it up because it's something that just looks really cool. Like, it's got some of my favourite artists in here. Like, just looking at the back, you've got people like Neil Adams, Brian Boland, Dave Gibbons, Mike Mignola, Mark Silvestri, Walter Simonson. Jesus Christ, there is a good list in here. And these effectively are just Batman short stories. I've read a few of them already and I enjoyed some of them weren't so great, but that's always the way it is when it's an anthology. anthology story. Another Batman omnibus that my girlfriend managed to surprise me with was the Batman 66 omnibus. Now I mentioned this in my Instagram story because this is a book that I've wanted for ages because I love Adam West's Batman. I used to watch it growing up because it'd always be on, like, I think it was ITV4. So when I heard that they'd done a series, and better yet that they'd done an omnibus, I really wanted this for a while, but obviously there was other books that took me attention, and this is one, because it's not in the main continuity, you tend to forget that it exists. But I really like Mike Allwood's art. I wish they'd do the Silver Surfer reprint, so I'm just glad that I've got this because it seems like a hidden gem within the DC universe. Now this might make a few of you stop watching, but I then got the Harley Quinn by Amanda Conner Omnibus Volume 1. I saw this in one of Clarence's video and I love this art. I love Power Girl when she did it as well, and she drew all the art for that. There's a crossover with Power Girl in this, which I'm really happy about because I haven't had a chance to read that yet. But let's face it, Harley Quinn's a character that is here to stay, and she is now her own character. She isn't just the Joker's girlfriend anymore. I've watched a few episodes of the series now that it's come across on the UK, and I did quite enjoy it, and it made me think, you know, maybe there's something in this run. Maybe I should have given this a chance where I didn't before, so I finally bought this. I'm going to see what I think about it, but I do also need the other volumes as well now. Then I picked up the Ultimate reprint by Mark Millar. What's happened to Mark Millar? He wrote Kick-Ass, he wrote Civil War, he wrote Wanted, but then he just disappeared. But I'm glad that they printed this out because I feel like the Ultimate Universe, if it's not Ultimate Spider-Man, people forget that there was anything good in it. Hopefully this means that they're going to have more faith in the Ultimate Universe, so we might see more Ultimate Spider-Man omnibuses. We might even see an Ultimate X-Men omnibus, which I know a lot of people hate it, but that was one of the first books I read, so I'd buy it just for nostalgia. But I really like this. Bryan Hitch is one of those artists that manages to do like widescreen art. But I remember in the final volume of the original trade paperbacks that I've got, there was like an 8-page fold-out spread. It was insane. I don't even know how they would have ended up penciling that, but I'm glad I got this omnibus. I'm glad I upgraded because it just looks really good. But I don't know if it's just me, but there's a little bit here underneath like Ant-Man's arm, but to me it just looks like they've deleted something and not coloured it in right, just because of the way that he's standing. It just looks really weird. It looks like his body should fill it out a bit more. So every time I look at this cover, that's something that I see, and I'm sorry if that's something that you can only see moving forward. I didn't mean to ruin this book for you. Okay, well, this next one. Okay, we've been here before, and say after me. I already had the complete collections. I didn't need the omnibus, but I saw the omnibus, so I brought it. But yeah, I upgraded to the new X-Men omnibus because I saw that this was steadily creeping out of print, and I've got quite a few of the other X-Men omnibuses now, or I've got them pre-ordered. So I didn't want this to be the odd one out because it is Grant Morrison. It's a run that's quite sought after, and a lot of people have talked about it. And this is the third printing on the omnibus, so I really didn't want to miss out on it. I already read a few of the complete collections, and I did actually enjoy them, so I thought it made sense to upgrade, and it does just look better on the shelf. Now, another Brian K. Vaughan book that I brought was the Runaways omnibus. Again, this seems to be one that's trickling out of stock here, there and everywhere, and I did manage to find a really good deal on cheap comics, so I wanted to buy it because I remember reading this years and years ago and liking it, but never continuing with it. But now we've got the luxury of having an omnibus, so of course I brought it because I really wanted it, but no, I didn't have the complete collection, so don't call me out on that one. But as far as I'm aware, this is like the villains of the Marvel Universe have kids, and then they all realise who their parents are and decide to run away and try to like redeem themselves before they've even done anything. I don't know much more about it past that, but I loved Ex Machina, I loved Why the Last Man, I loved Saga, so I had to pick this up. By the way, does anybody else feel like in these haul videos it's now just me like trying to rationalise why I brought this book? Now in the last two haul videos I did manage to harpoon quite a few whales that I was looking for, and you might be watching this video hoping that the same things happen, but honestly that can't happen every month. But one set of whales that I did manage to get this month was the Spider-Man Clone Saga Omnibuses Volume 1 and 2. It's this volume in particular, the second one, that's managed to just go out of print out of nowhere, and now it's really hard to find. But I managed to find it for a really good price. Like, I'm not even going to say how much it is because most of you probably hate me already, so just trust me, I got it for a really good price. I've already got the Ben Reilly Omnibus, so I wanted to have the books before that. These were books that I slept on for a while, and obviously I've heard about the Clone Saga. I've heard people talk about how bad it is, how it nearly destroyed Spider-Man, but I think in hindsight it might be a completely different read. But I am glad that I got these two considering how difficult it's been to get them recently. But Volume 1 was still in stock when I checked at Cheap Comics, so if you want it I'd recommend getting it from there. I think it's still at cover price, so it might be worth doing that. The next two books were ones that I had pre-ordered for a while, and I just hoped that it wasn't a false listing. And I'm sure if you had your eyes on these books as well, you are exactly like me, and you are so thankful that Image reprinted Black Science Premier Hardcover Volumes 1 and 2. Obviously, yeah, there's a Volume 3 as well. I haven't managed to pick my hands up on that yet. I got these as a pre-order because because I didn't want them to go out of print again. I didn't want it to be some kind of pre-order only thing, or worse, it just didn't exist at all. But these really round out my Rick Remender queue really well, so I'm just glad that I've got these. It's going to be great when I do Sept Remender. The third volume's the final one that I believe, so if you're interested in these, I definitely recommend just picking them up now whilst you can get them in stock, because if you look about 2 or 3 months ago, these books were going for stupid prices. There wasn't even one of these available on Amazon for a while. But admittedly, Black Science is one of those books I don't know anything about. I've seen a lot of people talking about it recently. It sounds like such a high concept idea and something that I'm interested in reading. So like I said, I'm glad those two got reprinted, and I'm looking forward to getting the third volume as well. Now if you're in the UK, you know that recently it's been really difficult to get new books across the pond. Especially with Marvel, we've seen barely any of them. But somehow, and again similar to Uncanny X-Force last month, I don't even know how they got here, I managed to get The Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus by JMS Volume 2. Yeah, of course it's the flat spine, and you know, is that something that's a massive deal breaker for me? If they bring it out again and it's got a round spine, would I get that one and sell this? I don't really know, but I've got Volume 1. This was the Spider-Man story that was around when I was growing up, so I'm glad that I've got this. I'm glad it's finished out the set, but come on Marvel, give us some Dan Slott Spider-Man Omnibuses now. As well, that book's got the Iron Spider-Man costume, which, as bad as it is to some people, is probably one of my top favourite Spider-Man costumes. But in a similar fashion, and I can't believe this one got over here as well, I got the Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1. I remember when this first came out and I slept on it because I wasn't really into omnibuses and I hadn't really read a lot of Wolverine. Obviously I knew him from the X-Men, but since then I've got near enough every Wolverine omnibus, and I think this is one step closer to completing that. But it looks like there's some great runs in here. You've got some Hulk issues, you've got his own solo issue, you see him cross over with the X-Men obviously a few times. So I think this is good as a piece of history just to know where this character that's so popular now came from. I am tempted to get the Punisher Back to the War book because that's in a similar fashion that it's all his original early stories. I haven't got it just yet, and you might be able to tempt me if you comment below and tell me that I should get it. I am genuinely that weak when it comes to willpower. But these are the final 2 books that I picked up this month, and the first one is an Absolute Edition, and that is Absolute Dark Knight 3 The Master Race. Yep, I'm a sucker for an Absolute Edition. This is so nice, just the images on it, and this is quite funny because there's so many alternative covers in this that they originally made a book that was just the alternative covers and the variants. I was genuinely tempted to do a video that was like ranking every variant cover within Dark Knight 3. I've got Absolute Dark Knight and I've had that for years. I know it might be getting a reprint later, so hopefully some of you can pick your hands up on that. But it's good that I can finally round out this story, whether people love it or hate it. I'm just glad that I finally got the 3rd volume. Although it's weird because Dark Knight 1 and technically 2 are all counted in the same omnibus, and then this says DK3, so it's always going to bug me OCD that it says 3 but there's no volume 2. They could have just called it Absolute Dark Knight The Master Race, and then I would have been fine with that. We always would have known it was Dark Knight 3, but I wouldn't have to have a permanent reminder that there's not going to be a volume 2. As bad as it is, I'm half tempted to pick up Absolute All-Star Batman and Robin just so I can quantify that as being volume 2. We'll see, I don't think my willpower's that weak. But the final book that I got this month, and I'm really happy that I managed to get it, I got it just before it started going out of print, and it's already going for extortionate prices, and it's going to be difficult to lift up, but I'm really happy that I managed to get Big Damn Sin City. And yeah, just look how big this is compared to my head, and trust me, you might not be able to tell from the camera, but I have an absolutely massive head. But I'm not just bragging here, I got this for less than the price of what it would have been whilst it was in stock, because it's got like the faintest scratch I've ever seen on the cover. I'd show you right now, but genuinely my wrists are quite weak. The gyms are still closed over here in the UK. But I've had the trade paperbacks of Sin City for years, and I've got the one where it connects to make one image. It's going to be sad to see that go because it's something that I actually really enjoyed hunting when I had to. Because it was before the new covers came out and I really didn't like the new covers, so I wanted to get those ones. But I think I've read all the way up to The Yellow Bastard and then I just didn't finish it after that. It's not that it's bad, it's just that it's short stories, so you don't feel the need to continue straight away. But by having this in one big massive volume, it's going to make it more likely that I will just probably sit and read this one day. I'm just glad that I got it because, like I said, it dropped out of print really quickly without warning, and we don't know if there's going to be another print of this. When this last went out of print, it was genuinely years before they gave us another release, and they did a stealth release, so I don't really know if this is ever going to come back and print again. But if you can see it in your local comic shop and you fancy, I definitely recommend picking it up. It's one of those like seminal comic stories that even if you're not into comics, you should be able to enjoy this. So those are all the books that I brought in June, and like I said, when we're staying at home at the moment, I'm just online all the time, so do accidentally keep buying books. And as much as it sounds like I'm flexing and I'm bragging in these videos, it's always better to have financial security than a book that might go out of print. Always just make sure that you're being wise bags were you spending? I might have gone a bit stupid this month, but then next month I'm going to tighten my belt a bit more. But then again, I've said that the last 2 months, so I'm just praying I can this month. But comment below with the books that you bought and tell me if there's any whales that you managed to find out in the wild. And I do just want to take this time to say thank you to everybody who supported this channel, because it's the end of my second month at YouTube, because obviously the first video I did was my April haul, and the amount of support, the amount of love is just been amazing to me, and it just makes me really want to work harder. Obviously we've already hit 100 subscribers and I've already done the room tour, and like I said, when I get to 500 I'm going to make sure that I do a live stream so that I can actually sit down and talk with you whilst it's all happening live. Because honestly, if you guys weren't supporting this, I wouldn't be doing this video now. Like, I didn't really know what the plan was when I made that first video. I didn't know if I wanted to continue with it. I didn't even know if there'd be a platform for me to really speak on. But even though there's channels with much bigger subscriber bases than mine, I'm just really happy that I've managed to find my feet on here and you guys have supported me so far. Like, I try to make sure that I reply to absolutely every comment that I can, even if it means it might be a day or so later. I make sure that with every video that I do that there's so much quality in it, even if it means me doing an extra 2 hours of work. Even if it means that I can't put a video out on the day that I want to and it has to be pushed back a day, it means that I can give you a video that's not going to waste your time. So from the bottom of my heart, I do genuinely just want to thank you, and hopefully you'll keep supporting the channel and I'll keep making content that you all enjoy. But thank you to everybody that's promoted the channel already. I love when I see that you've tagged me in your Instagram post because you're sharing my channel, and then obviously I see people subscribing to the channel and it just makes it feel like I'm really doing something well on here. But to anybody who does that, thank you. Like, it does make a massive difference to the channel, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do so and just click that bell notification next to it. It takes 2 seconds to click it and then you'll get notified for all of my videos, and it'll just really help this channel get a bit further. But check me out on Instagram. I always make sure that if I find any deals or anything like that, that I put it in my stories. And check out some of my other videos, and hopefully I'll see you at the next one. We've got Whale Watch coming up this week as well, which I'm sure you're all going to tune into and enjoy. But as always, and more than ever, keep reading, stay safe, and just keep barking all you mad dogs. See you next time.